All right. Hello. What's your name?
My name is Geist.
Okay. And what is the name of your dog?
So my dog's name is Bijou. I renamed her. Her original name, as it still is on the paperwork, is Sweet Bear.
Hmm. So, how old is Bijou?
They estimate her to be between 1 and 8 years on this paperwork. They told me at the shelter that she was anywhere between 1 year and 3 years, but on her, like on the little sign they have on the kennel, it said she was 2 years old. So roughly 1 to 3 years old.
Okay. And where was she adopted?
She was adopted from Barks in Baltimore City. It's on 301 Stockholm Street. We
Okay.
had gone there over the course of like 2 weeks. And when we finally found her, it was love at first sight.
How did she end up in the shelter? Or do you know about her previous living situations?
So, unfortunately, we don't know too much about her previous living situation. They told us at the shelter that she was brought in by animal control and then she was kept on a stray hold. They do that when animal control brings in an animal, so that way, if they do have a previous owner, they have the chance to come claim the dog or cat or whatever. But no one came to claim her, and we had put our application on her. So all we really know is that she is good with other dogs. She doesn't bite or anything, and she's not terribly aggressive.
Hmm. And what made
But
you... Oh, go ahead.
sorry, but I can say we've had her for a couple weeks now, and I can honestly say that it seems like wherever she was before had a home with children because she is unusually docile around children. I've seen a lot of dogs in my life that if they haven't been around children, they will like stay away from them or they will be kind of aggressive towards them. And she is not like that at all.
Hmm.
She's very relaxed and she will kind of just let them do whatever they want to her.
What made
But
you... Oh, I'm sorry.
oh no, I was just saying that's all.
What made you choose to rescue from a shelter over buying from a retail pet store?
A couple reasons. Price is definitely involved in there. Uh, the retail pet stores around here are few and far between. I think there's only one that's even very reputable as far as the animals actually go, but that's all the way in Colombia. Um, for the most part, it really came down to price and understanding what we had time to take care of. Like, if we had gotten a puppy, that would have been a lot of extra work on top of also having a 9-month-old baby, as opposed to getting a dog that already kind of knows things like where to go to the bathroom and to not be completely like off the wall all the time. Uh, those were kind of just what went into it. I mean, because buying a dog from a retail place or a breeder, that at minimum is usually like six or five, like $700, and it can go up to thousands of dollars depending on the kind of dog you're getting.
Mm-hmm. What kind of breed is Bijou?
As far as we understand, she is just your classic mutt. There's a lot of pit bull in her, though. Definitely, you can see it in her face. I'm not sure if that's just because pit bulls have like dominant genes, but for the most part, she's like a smaller, medium-sized breed of mutt.
Hmm.
Yes, you're a mutt.
Some people are afraid of adopting pets from shelters because they may exhibit behavioral issues. Does this bother you?
I don't think it bothers me so much as it's just a matter of not being completely informed or not knowing what to look for in a dog when you're looking in a shelter. I mean, my husband, even, I had to be careful with him. It got to a point where I had to ask him to wait outside of the rooms while I would walk through and look at the dogs because a lot of dogs, when they're in shelters, they'll have certain kind of like performance when they're inside of the kennel versus when you meet them outside of the kennel. Like they may seem kind of aggressive when they're in the kennel as opposed to when you meet them outside and they're just happy and like affectionate. But it bothers me that there's the misunderstanding of that, thinking a dog's aggressive just because it's kind of freaked out because of the wall.
Mm-hmm. And does your dog show any signs of issues, maybe from their previous upbringing?
I guess the biggest issue that I've seen with her is just that she seems kind of not aggressive, sorry. She seems anxious. She doesn't seem like aggressive in the slightest. Honestly, it's very strange to me that she doesn't have any sort of aggression. Even the nicest dogs I've ever met in my life have tended to be at least a little bit aggressive. But she's just very, very anxious. If you move too quick, she'll like jump away from you. She doesn't even like bark. She makes these little rumbly sounds that kind of sound like they would be growls, but they're just like grumbles. Like imagine a cat purring, but it's 40 pounds and a dog.
So a majority of animals come from breeding facilities.
Sorry.
No, you're good. So majority of pets come from breeding facilities where animals aren't given adequate water, food, or proper veterinary care. Are you aware of these conditions that these animals endure?
I'm aware of quite a bit with breeders and such. I don't see those kind of things happening at shelters for the most part, at least not the shelters I've gone to. But I don't see many people actually buying from people like that, those kinds of breeders. I can even use an example of one that's right in Towson. Just Puppies, as I've heard, only has 2 locations. They're a store that sells puppies. And they not only don't treat their customers very well, but apparently they don't treat the animals too well either. This is just going off of like verbal things that I've heard from other people who have tried to go in there. It's just that it's dirty, that it's nasty, and like people don't want to go in there at all. So like I can't imagine that the people that keep putting their animals through these kinds of conditions are gonna stay in business for very long. It's unfortunate for the animals. I wish it wasn't that way, but hopefully with the lack of business, they won't be able to prosper like that anymore.
So Montgomery County in Maryland released a bill recently called Bill 5014, and it prohibits retail stores from selling the animals that I explained in puppy mills from being sold. So the only way anybody could buy or adopt a pet in this county is if it was obtained from an animal care facility, or a nonprofit rescue organization. Do you agree with this bill?
That's kind of a tough question. There are tons of people out there that breed animals and do a very good job of it. Whether or not they're a nonprofit or they're doing it for profit, I can't say for every single one. I think that ultimately it's a good idea to have that kind of bill as a crackdown on the people that are mistreating the animals overall. It's safer for the animals and the people involved in everything. But I do think it kind of gives little to no leeway for people who are breeders who are actually doing a good job of taking care of their animals. But ultimately, I think it's a good thing.
What is a possible solution for the increasing number of animals being placed in shelters?
Spay and neuter your pets, folks. Like at Barks, for instance, if you adopt an animal, you can't adopt an animal without having them spayed first or neutered first. So Bijou got spayed the day we brought her home. They spayed her, told us to come in near the end of business hours that day to pick her up, so that way she had time to like come back out awake from her anesthesia and relax a little after her surgery, and then we could take her home at the end of the day after we did our contract and everything. And Barks doesn't send any animals home without spaying or neutering them first, because they don't want more animals to keep ending up in the shelter. As far as I know, I can't say for certain, but as far as I know, that's the only shelter I've seen that has that kind of policy for adopting out their animals.
Do you have advice for someone who is thinking of adopting?
If you're thinking of adopting, definitely do your research first. Don't go in with any specific kind of like breed in mind, but keep an open mind for dog personalities or cat personalities. Whatever you go in there to adopt. If you have a specific age range or you have a specific personality type you're looking for, that's all well and good. I would also say to just look at all your local shelters. That's what I did. I looked at every single shelter in the Maryland area before I found one that was not only something that I was able to afford, but also had like policies that I agreed with, and they let you meet animals that day. They have lots of animals that you can even take home that day, so long as everything is good in their books, or if the animal isn't on a stray hold or something like that. They work with you, they talk to you, they have basically all kinds of answers for you. Just do your research and keep an open mind. That's all. That's my advice. I went into a little rambling there, but I'm being talked to by a baby. He is distracting.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you taking your time to answer my questions.
No problem. I hope I was helpful and informative.